The courtroom was tense the moment a white female officer walked in and openly disrespected a black female judge. The judge remained silent, but her eyes spoke volumes. There was arrogance in the officer's tone, like she didn't even recognize the authority in front of her. Words like, "You don't look like a judge," hung heavy in the air. The disrespect wasn't subtle, it was bold, direct, and offensive. The judge stayed calm, letting the officer speak. The courtroom watched closely. The officer seemed to believe. Her uniform gave her power over the judge, but what she didn't expect was how the judge would respond when the judge finally spoke. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Calm but firm, she addressed the officer in a way that left no room for doubt. This courtroom had one authority. And it wasn't her. She reminded the officer that in this courtroom, justice isn't about color, badge, or background. It's about integrity, law, and respect. Her voice was collected, but her words hit like thunder. You could feel the shift in the room. The judge didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her presence did all the talking. She said clearly that she was there to uphold the law, not to argue or be provoked. Her composure exposed the officer's lack of it. And suddenly the roles began to reverse. The one who thought she was in control began to lose it. While the judge held the room with nothing but the power of her truth, she spoke of how authority isn't something worn, it's something earned. That being a judge isn't about fitting a stereotype, it's about serving the law with fairness and dignity. And the room began to see it, the audience, the lawyers, even the bailiffs. They could see the officer was out of line and the judge was setting a powerful example. Quiet, strong, unapologetic, she didn't embarrass the officer, but she taught her something about justice, about humanity, and about humility. She said the law doesn't bend for arrogance, and neither does this courtroom. The officer stood, silently shaken. What began as an act of defiance turned into a moment of reckoning. The judge then turned to the rest of the courtroom and reminded everyone, the law is supposed to protect the weak, to balance power, and to serve truth, she said. She'd spent her career fighting to be heard, to be seen as equal in a system that wasn't built for people who look like her. And even now, in the robe, in the seat of power, she still had to deal with this. But what matters most, she said, isn't what people think when they look at her, it's what she stands for when they try to look past her. That moment wasn't just about a courtroom dispute. It was about racism, power, and how deeply rooted biases still try to disguise themselves as procedure. The courtroom was silent. Even those who came in skeptical were now reflecting. This was more than a case, it was a statement. The judge didn't need to prove her authority. She was the authority. The officer eventually muttered a response, but by then, the power in the room had already shifted. The judge had made it clear, respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And no badge, no attitude, no privilege gives anyone the right to walk into her courtroom and forget that. As the hearing came to a close, the judge didn't deliver a punishment, she delivered a message. One that echoed far beyond the courtroom walls. She said, if we're going to move forward as a society, we need to start by recognizing what true justice looks like. It looks like fairness, like accountability, like strength held with grace, and sometimes it looks like a black woman in a judge's robe, refusing to be broken by disrespect. People left that courtroom different than they entered. Quiet, thoughtful, even changed. They didn't just see a legal proceeding, they witnessed a moment of truth. And in that truth, the judge showed everyone what real power looks like. It doesn't shout. It doesn't boast. It stands tall, speaks clearly, and leaves a mark that no one can ignore.